Hello, everyone. Thank you for being here today. My name is Stacy Pringle, and I am the host of Tell the Story Journeys of Purpose. Today, we have with us Courtney Robinson. She is an entrepreneur, she is a wife, she's a powerhouse woman of God, and we're so grateful that she is spending this time with us to talk about how do we allow God to lead us. So, Courtney, I am not going to delay this. Please tell us more about yourself. And because we want to know all the good things that you're doing and God has you doing in your gifts. Thank you.
Absolutely. So, hi, Stacy, and hi, everyone. I am Courtney Robinson, personal stylist and image coach with Image by Courtney. And I love encouraging and helping women curate wardrobes that truly reflect their passions, their personality, and their lifestyle. So that's really my calling, and my purpose is to empower women to show up in their authenticity. I do that through, again, working with women in their wardrobe, helping them to project a professional image, helping them to project executive presence, and just helping them to really feel good about themselves and who they are right now in their style journey.
How did you know that this was your purpose, that was your gift? How did God lead you to this place?
I think, in our history, when we look back, we see all of these seeds that were planted at different times. Like if you go back as far back as when I was like in, grade school, I remember my mom saying I was obsessed with sketching clothes. I was also obsessed with getting dressed. I like to change clothes like 3 times a day. And she'd have to tell me, Courtney, one outfit is enough, just little things like that. But as I got bigger, it developed more into one of the things that I've always been passionate about is personal development. And that's exactly what personal style is. It's personal development. And so I found out that I can make an impact by showing up in a powerful way. Yes. in the corporate sense, and working my way up in corporate. And so I just started to use that to garner influence and, again, make impact and socialize and connect with people. I think when I went to business school, which was, it's almost been 9 years since I graduated. I was in a cohort of 50 men, 10 of which were women. So, we stuck together as women. And so we had to find a way to kind of differentiate ourselves and show up in a powerful way, even within that environment. And again, it was, okay, the guys are showing up in suits sometimes, or, what guys show up in. And then as a woman, how do we show up in a way that also commands authority, and allows us to be seen. So there were very intentional ways that I was able to practice that. So that was one environment. My job was another environment because I was client facing. So entertaining clients and just making a presence within, my workspace. I wanted to show up in a very, powerful and encouraging way. So when I was in business school, one of my colleagues said to me, she asked me, she's like, you always look so sharp. You always look nice. I want to know, do you have a personal stylist, or are you a personal stylist? How do you really, curate your wardrobe? And that really planted the seed for me. I thought, wow, this is something I've done for myself. I haven't hired anyone to do it. Actually, while I probably knew it was a service I could pay for, I didn't know anybody or have anyone in my circle who had ever worked with or experienced, working with a personal stylist. So then fast forward, after graduating and getting married and moving to Georgia, an opportunity presented itself because I was looking for community. And so really entrepreneurship is that thing. I was like, right, if I get into entrepreneurial circles, I'll meet people, and I'll meet people who are like-minded and things of that nature. And so that kind of sparked, I remembered, I was like, she said, if I was a stylist, she would hire me. And I thought that's something that I could really do and get behind, because it supports women. It empowers women. It's an opportunity to use a strength. And again, to make an impact. So that's what really got me started in it. And so that was almost 7 years ago. 2016 is when I started. And I'm just excited about all the opportunities, all the amazing women I've met, connections that I've made, and, planting other seeds and having impact in people's lives.
Courtney, you mentioned about being in a corporate setting, right? And showing up. How difficult is it to show up in a corporate setting and be your most authentic self, right? And not play the comparison game as far as the image, and let's face it, we've all had those issues when it comes to image and how we're supposed to look. So how difficult is it? Is it difficult at all? And how do we get to that place, especially again, but it doesn't matter if it's corporate or nonprofit, no matter where we are, that we show up as our most authentic self, and we don't compare ourselves to others. Right. And we're not ashamed of who we are, right? We walk in ourselves with greatness, with confidence, with love, right. Not selfish kind of love, but self-love that generates positivity. Can you talk about that for us, please?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. And it can be difficult if you don't have support, right? Or if you're not the type of person who is really passionate about the personal development or do-it-yourself type of thing, right? So not really knowing about what a stylist does or having experience, I just knew that my end goal was to show up as authentic as I knew how. Yes. And create that impact. So, I know that your authenticity is super important to developing your personal style. And yes. So that's where you have to start. And that's probably where the support comes in, right? Find someone who is, who can support you in finding what your personal brand is. Everyone has a personal brand. You don't have to be an entrepreneur. And in the corporate space, I think people are starting to see that a lot more now, that your brand, it's what people know you for. It's what you stand for, right? And your outward appearance is a part of that as well. So I think it's just, you have to really do a little bit of introspection, and thinking in terms of, how do I want to be seen? How do I want to be regarded? And most importantly, how do I want to be remembered? So when people recall me, am I memorable? And in what way am I memorable? The easiest way to make that impact is how you choose to show up, outwardly. Yes. And that's often a reflection of how we're feeling about ourselves inwardly. So it's like really coming to grips with, who am I? Who am I? Who am I, first of all, for me? Who am I? Who did God make me to be? And Then how do I show up in that personal power? So really understanding yourself, your likes, your dislikes, your qualities, your uniqueness, what your it factor is, understanding all of those things will help you to curate a wardrobe that aligns with your personal brand so that you can show up beautifully powerful. So it requires some support, because I don't think any of us really just sit around and think about, how does my wardrobe align with my personal brand? I don't think any of us just sit around and think about that, except me, maybe, because I'm working with women to achieve that. But yeah, that's the start. That's where you start, is getting support of an expert who can help you along that personal development and your style journey in terms of that. It's hugely important, but I think you cannot separate the inward piece from the outward piece. I think your outward appearance is a reflection of what's going on inside. So
I think those are excellent points. I think that is very true. Unless you know, start there, know yourself. How can you begin to express that outwardly? Mm-hmm. So my next question is this: when a woman comes to you, right, and she is wrestling with this, right, and she is or in denial, how do you get her to the place of accepting or seeing herself, right, in a mirror, a reflection of her true self, what's happening with her to elevate her to who she really is? How do you deal with that when you work with someone?
Well, I think that's a great question, because that's probably the most, if I could say, challenging part of what I do. Every woman that I style, of course, is different and unique, and they all come with different challenges around their body, their self-perception, and how they look. So it's really honing in on that, understanding where their challenges are, so that I can then show them the transformation, right? I think when we see it, we believe it. So it's like really having them accept where they are, but then show them where they can go, where they can be. So helping them understand that the transformation is possible. There's just some steps. There's a process to get there. So it's really starting with mindset. Mindset is really key in terms of helping women understand that, they're valuable regardless of how they look, right? Yeah. But then we also have to understand that being the human beings that we are, that we're all visual, that we all appreciate being around beautiful things, smart people, intelligence, brilliance, things of those natures. And so it's about having your expertise align with how you choose, to show up. So
that is so good. Wow. Aligning your expertise with how you show up. I'm going to ask you if you've ever had any challenges regarding, yourself, and how did God work with you in overcoming those challenges, if any?
Well, it's interesting because in the beginning of my entrepreneurial journey, for those of us who are in business, we know that, you want to start with a problem because you want to show people how to overcome that problem. And the easiest way is to start with one that you've overcome. But really, for me in the beginning, it wasn't about not lacking anything necessarily. I was just using fashion and style as tools, which is what I, use help my clients learn to use them as tools as well. But there came a part in my journey where it did become deeper than that, right? And that's when I had like a health scare. Well, it wasn't a scare. I had a health issue that significantly impacted how I saw myself, right? Because I did not look physically like I was used to looking. It impacted my self-esteem and my confidence. And even, to some extent prevented me from wanting to show up on video and things of that nature. So I had to then, those same things that I teach my clients, had to use on myself in terms of appreciating who I was in that season.
Yes.
And knowing that people would also appreciate me showing up in that season, regardless of how I looked. It doesn't mean that I showed up looking bad or less than I could have. It's just that things were different and I had to adapt, right? I had to adapt, and I just really had to appreciate what I was going through in that season, how it affected me physically, and then coming to terms with the fact that will heal. This is just a season, and you'll be able to show up in the way that you want to, but don't let that stop you from showing up where you are. And that goes back to your last question, like helping people realize that just because you don't like where you are now doesn't mean you have to hide. It doesn't mean that you have to hide behind anything. And women have a tendency to hide behind clothes, wearing
Yes.
clothes that are too big, or either wearing clothes that are too small because they don't feel like it's worth the investment to buy things that truly resonate and fit the personal style that they have right now. So that's the biggest part of it. And that's what I had to go through. It's like, okay, Court, you've done this. You're teaching women how to do it. Now you're elevating to another level in terms of how do you use that very same process of almost refining yourself, refining your style to meet the needs that you have right now. So I can closely identify with that and having to go through that process for myself.
When a woman comes to you and she needs a personal stylist, needs a personal stylist, and she comes to you and Courtney, that she doesn't feel worthy, right? And she can't seem to equate her worthiness with her image. How do you get her to that place of acknowledging that she is worthy and how her image, right, her outside appearance will change when she acknowledges the strength, right, the necessity of knowing and wearing and owning her worthiness?
Right. There's so much to unpack with that.
Yeah.
And I'll sound repetitive, but there really are just a few things that really impact your style. And it's your mindset, your confidence,
yes,
and your authenticity. And so when you accept where you are in your style journey, when you choose to radiate confidence by focusing on the qualities that you love about yourself and using those to your best advantage.
yes.
And when you choose to be very honest and real with who you are, and like you said, not necessarily, it's fine to emulate styles that you see, but there's something special that there's something special about you, and there are things that people value in you that attract and connect them to you. And so it's about really relying on those things and standing in that personal power. So I would say, no amount of clothing could ever equate to your worthiness, right? So I want to separate that from the very start. Okay. Your clothing doesn't determine your worth. What I teach is that it is a tool. Fashion and style are tools. They are tools to help you make a greater impact in your community, in your circle, and those that you touch. Why? Because we attract what we are. And so you want to show up in that sense, right?
Yes.
So that's hugely, that's a key, right? That's a key, is developing those three elements in your style journey. And, there may be iterations because we change, we grow, we evolve based on where we are in our life. So what your style was 20 years ago may not be what it is now, and rightfully so, because you've grown and developed and gone through so many different stages, hence personal development. So as you develop personally, your style will also develop and grow with you.
Great point. And we have to be willing to receive that, accept that, and live in that, right? So I have a question about style icons. Do you have any style icons that
I
have influenced
do.
you in your journey?
I'm glad you asked me that. I very rarely share that because no one really asked me. But yeah, my style icon, people probably won't even, they'll be like, really? Is really Princess Kate, believe it or
Really?
not. Yeah. There's
Wow.
something about her style that is so classic and romantic and powerful to me. If you
Mhm.
look at her images across the board, she shows up very consistently, right? And it's easy for her because, of her position and all the resources and access that she has. But we have those things too. We have access to that type of support as well. So yeah, I love her style. I love that she's into dresses. I love that she's into a lot of monochromatic things. I like
Mhm.
that. There's something about, the power of color and how when we choose colors and cuts and styles and fabrics that really speak to us
Yes.
and help us to dress our body shapes, just embracing all of those things, it really makes sense in looking well put together and how you show up. So she's like my number one style icon, Princess
That's
Kate.
great. I would have never thought. I thought you were going to reach back and talk
Yeah.
about someone else. That is so great. That is
Mhm.
wonderful. The other question I have for you is I know I love to thrift, right? I'm a thrifter, so I
Yeah.
love going to thrift shops. I think that I believe in slow fashion as well versus fast fashion. So I believe that a quality piece is a quality piece, and you can go to a thrift store. But a lot of people have been frequenting thrift stores because they know the value that you can find some good pieces in thrift stores.
Mhm. Yeah.
So tell me, do you have any opinions about slow fashion, fast fashion, quality, where to buy items, quality items? Does it matter if you go to Goodwill, Salvation Army, or Old Navy, or um, J. Crew, or Gucci?
Mhm.
So talk to us about that and your
Yeah,
opinion.
I think that's a great question. And it allows me to make a really good point because I think a lot of people feel like if they're not spending a lot of money, that they're not necessarily getting quality. And that doesn't always, higher price does not always uh, equate to quality. So you have to understand that. I always advise my clients to invest at the highest quality that they can afford, whatever
Yes,
that is for you.
yes.
The difference in fast fashion versus, making other, better investments is that it's just not going to last as long. So when you're trying to build a wardrobe that is timeless and that's going to serve you well and something that you don't have to continue to invest in time and time again, that's where you want to buy quality over quantity, right?
Right. Right.
So when you choose to invest in quality pieces, you're automatically decreasing the amount of money that you're having to spend on your wardrobe over time.
That's true.
So it's one thing to buy a quality piece, and then it's something else to really take care of it. So, like, I also stress things when I work with my clients one on one or in our cohorts about laundering, how to care for your clothes, and different things like that to prolong the life, right? Like, some people really don't enjoy dry cleaning. But if a piece says dry cleaning, it probably needs to be dry cleaned because that's what's going to prolong the life of that garment. Whereas if you're someone who really prefers throwing it in the washer and then either hanging it up or throwing it in the dryer, then just make sure you're buying clothes that are designed to be laundered in that way, right? So caring for your clothes is super important to the longevity of it. But yeah, I highly recommend investing in the highest quality that you can. So with that being said, you can really get nice pieces from anywhere, right? I love thrifting as well. I'm actually on Poshmark. I sell items that either I grow out of in terms of, it doesn't work for me anymore, that are either brand new with tags that are in my closet, or things that, no longer fit me, but are really in really great repair and that somebody else would love, right? You know what they say, one man's trash is another man's treasure. And that is, quite true. And so, those resellers like that are very popular. I often tell my clients, if you have things sitting in your closet with tags that you're not going to use, that you're never going to wear, selling them and then using that money to reinvest in things that you're actually going to use and wear is really the way to go. And so I've gotten on Poshmark and found the brands and that I love with things, and you can choose. If you want to buy things that are used, you can. If you want to only buy things that are brand new, you can filter for that and kind of go from there. But I think that's a really good way to find pieces, because that's another thing. They're not making clothes like they used to, right? I don't think they make the same quality that they used to. There are some things that are, but even some of the things that are very costly or expensive are not the quality that I've seen in the past. So I think you have to be very discerning.
Yes.
Of course, in the things that you're choosing and the selections that you make, be very intentional about the things that you're investing in. And if you want to build a wardrobe that really, a great wardrobe that serves you, then you really just want to, again, be intentional about the things that you're choosing to invest in. So,
thank you. I think we all need to hear that. So again, going back to what I stated before, that comparison game, we see it so much on social media, or we see someone, oh, we have to, no, it goes back to, your worthiness, and how do you tie that up into looking for or pursuing someone else's, what they are instead of who you are, right? Mm-hmm. So really bring that back in and understanding who you are and starting there. And when someone can work with you, Courtney, and understand that there's a deeper level of your image and how you can bring that forth and not get stuck, right? Not get stuck in someone else's anything.
Absolutely.
But you move forward in who you are, your most authentic self. I know I keep going back to that, but we can't be the solution to people's problems if we continue to get stuck in other, right? In other. So we started off with, how do we allow God to lead us? So I'm going to bring that back. Where is God leading you next, right? And like, as you elevate your entrepreneurial journey and what you're doing to empower women?
That's a great question. This year, it's actually something God laid on my heart a few years ago, but this year I actually put it into action, and that was starting a weekly devotional. It's called Poise and Promises, and it's dedicated to merging fashion and faith and helping women to understand, that they were created in God's image and his likeness, and that it's actually, edifying to show up in a way that honors God, like dressing, in a way that honors God and honors you personally, right? So the weekly devotional just really pulls out scriptures that you wouldn't think are related to fashion and style, but there's always a way to make that connection. And so that's something that I've done that has been, I guess, a pivot, if you will, in my business, because that's something that's near and dear to me. And I think that, in my mission, showing the goodness of God through helping women appreciate themselves, their bodies, their style journey is really important to building up the kingdom.
Yeah.
It's been said, and apologize if I butcher it, but when you educate a woman, you educate a community, or, different things like that. And that's very true. And so I think when we as women feel good about who we are, what we represent, and our own messages, that allows us to be really impactful in whoever it is that we're touching. And so that is really a part of my goal. I've made it been very intentional about networking, building relationship, and then not being afraid to speak about, this is my bent, right? And this is important to me. And this is what differentiates me as a stylist and an image coach, is that we're really going to focus on how your inner self influences how you choose to show up outwardly. So that's where the business is going in terms of that. I have lots of other little things that I want to do, but the focus in everything that I do is all about empowering women through their faith and their style.
That is wonderful. And congratulations for your new endeavor and what you're doing to help empower us, and really be intentional about how we move in the world, right? And flow with God. I love to put that in, our flow with God.
Yes.
And this helps us, what you're doing helps us do all of that. So, Courtney, tell the listeners, please tell everyone where they can reach you, anything that you want, any events or anything you want to mention.
Absolutely. So most people are on Instagram, so you can always reach me at Image by Courtney on Instagram. You can also reach me at Courtney Robinson on Facebook and Courtney Robinson on LinkedIn. So those are my main social channels, and you'll be able to find more information about my services and things that I do on those social media platforms as well. In addition to that, this summer I've been promoting a summer style lab workshop series. The third workshop is coming up on this coming Friday, August 18th. And the topic is professional image and executive presence. And I'll specifically be talking about in depth some of the things that we actually mentioned today in terms of how to show up and how to really have a powerful presence in that way in your corporate life, as an entrepreneur. Any way that you're showing up doesn't have to be in either one of those spaces, but any way that you're trying to show up, I think this will definitely benefit you and give you some actionable steps and tips that you can take away and execute right away. So that's what we have coming up. And thank you for the opportunity to share that.
Oh, of course. Thank you for, using your platform and reaching out to us in various ways so we can walk in our betterment. Anything else you'd like to leave us with before we close today?
Well, I just always like to impose on people that image matters. Image matters, and it's not for everyone else's benefit. It's for yours first, right? Because your image actually influences how you choose to show up and how you make an impact on everyone else. So think of it in those terms first. It's great for us to show up so that people can see us as beautifully powerful, but this is foremost for you before it's for anyone else. So your image matters.
Thank you very much. Listeners, please visit Courtney. Please sign up for her workshop, her labs, and we look forward to seeing what you're going to do in the future, Courtney. We need you. Keep doing what you're doing. Please keep being, of course, you are going to be led by God in transforming the lives of women everywhere. So, again, thank you for spending this time with us.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity.
Welcome. God bless.